Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's Tuesday, 4 days away from the Friday Road Show. At Scramblers, sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting, which is powered by 3M Window Film. And then we do have a happy hour at Retro Metro. It'll be the last happy hour that we have before the primary election. So it'll be a great opportunity to come together. Who knows? Maybe some folks running for office or running to run for office, running for that Republican banner so that they can be on the ballot in the general election as a Republican, or heck, maybe some Democrats will show up. Highly doubt it, but nonetheless, it'll be a great opportunity to mingle before then. And if you have any questions, there are generally folks there at our happy hours that are pretty in tune with what's going on, especially if you are wanting to know who the, quote, conservative candidates are. Because I don't watch a lot of network television, not for any particular reason, I just don't. But I put it on yesterday, and man, oh man. I mean, I know those of you that watch network TV, the ads, and did Lincoln Huff, did the establishment behind him just drop millions of dollars to essentially own every single break? I mean, I swear, it was like the Lincoln Huff propaganda channel to just over and over and over again claim he's conservative, claim that he's going to enforce the border as a lieutenant governor, which didn't know that was the job of the lieutenant governor, but nonetheless, he's biggest tax cutter in the history of Missouri. I mean, just over and over and over and over again. No wonder. I mean, I know it, obviously. You really, truly cannot vote based off information you see in campaign ads. Some of the allegations that are made against, for example, talk about the gubernatorial race, Ashcroft and Eigel, that they are the most liberal people ever, and it's just, that particular race, behind the scenes, off the record conversations that oftentimes happen amongst other elected officials or people that are in the world of politics. They say when it comes to Ashcroft and Eigel, either of those guys, if you're wanting somebody that's conservative, they're going to serve that purpose. That's the common theme that you hear, that either one of those two. Kehoe, definitely not. Without question, definitely not. He's way to the left of those two guys. And so when you see all these ads that label Eigel, that label Ashcroft as these pro-China, left-wing, tax-increasing individuals, you realize you just cannot. You should just ignore the ads. Just totally ignore them. Because there, for the most part, is no truth in the ads. And then those that are truthful, you just don't know one way or another. As, of course, I know then the question is, well, how do you know? Where do you go? And here's the thing, and I know this isn't necessarily an easy answer, but there isn't one place. There's not one place that you can go, and here's the magical place that you're going to find it. Because even if you have an outlet that is really straightforward, really objective, still you do have opinion, right? I mean, that is still in play. So you can have extremely reasonable people who are intellectually curious, that are looking for somebody that is constitutionally minded or conservative leaning, and then have more than one person that has that desire, that perspective, and they still may disagree with one another as to whom the most conservative is. So, there just isn't one place, and so it's paying attention. We try here to be a venue in which we talk about these things and don't tell you, oh, this person, though oftentimes it does get to that point, but more just about having conversations about what's going on and these individuals that are in these races oftentimes, just to fill your mind, to give you access to different thoughts so that you can use that information to make those decisions for yourself. And it's not always easy, and sometimes you just don't know. That's life. It would be convenient if you could just check in a week before the election and from that get full knowledge and understanding as to where all of the candidates stand and what their true voting records are compared to whom that is that they claim they are. But it just doesn't work that way. That's life. It's like anything else. If you aren't into sports, you're aware of sports, but then come regionals or finals or super or whatever, and then you sit out. You can't expect that you are going to have the same grasp of the sport with the players and their backgrounds and their history and the other teams because you sat down for that final week and started paying attention. You're just not going to have the same amount of knowledge and understanding as somebody who follows it all the time, who follows in the off season. What's going on? Who are these people? What are their backgrounds? And that's the way it is. We're going to get a look at the weather coming up here in a moment. Also, the latest traffic right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today, sunny with a high near 96. The heat index value is going to reach around 109. Tonight, clear with a low around 76. On Wednesday, sunny with a high near 98. Once again, that heat index value reaching close to 109. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 98.
The rigging of the Democrats' elections, all in the name of democracy, of course, continues, and this is it's continuing into the Democratic National Convention that's upcoming. Now, from the beginning, we've watched the Democrats rig their own elections in order to manipulate the voters into getting Joe Biden the nomination without much of a challenge. This was done with the historic changing of the primary caucus calendars. Iowa, New Hampshire always have been the first in modern history. South Carolina is a state that Joe Biden did well in. That's what pushed him over the edge with James Clyburn and telling black people here's who you have to vote for. And so it was believed that Iowa can be a little bit different and weird, and the Democrats feared that whether it was RFK Jr. or some sort of other challenger came along, that they wouldn't beat Joe Biden, but that they would make enough of a dent in him at the time that it would make him look weak. And this was when they were spreading the propaganda that he was fit and tight and smart and capable, and they didn't want that. So that's when they threatened Iowa and New Hampshire with stripping all of their voters of their voting rights unless they moved their contest so that South Carolina could be first. We also saw a number of Democrats, Colorado being one of the states, there were a couple of others, trying to remove Donald Trump from the ballots in order to rig the election. Supreme Court 9-0 said you can't really do that. There were some states back to the Democrat primaries in which they just canceled them altogether, or they allowed the primary to take place, but in a North Korean-style voting method, they only allowed Joe Biden to be on the ballot. And so we've all observed the election rigging that the Democrats have been doing this entire time. Again, all in the name of democracy, of course, free and fair elections. So then they fear that they made a mistake in rigging the election for Biden, so they overturn all of those elections. 50 states overturn it, say, never mind, forget it. Here's your new person. Of course, Kamala is not the official nominee until the delegates cast their votes. That is what happens. That's what the convention is. That's ultimately what is occurring at the convention. Now, you have platform issues and, of course, the cheerleading component to it. But the official nomination of the candidate saying this is going to be our person, this is officially the individual, that's when all of those delegates who were supposed to have been casting their votes for Biden until that was overturned will say, okay, this is for whom we're going to vote. The Democrats, though, here's what they're afraid of. And I know some of you are aware of this, but there's a new development to some degree in this I wanted to share with you. They were afraid because you had organizations like Black Lives Matter and a lot of just Democrat voters that they don't like her. And they don't like the process. They don't like the fact that after one election was rigged and then overturned, that now they're just flat out saying this is the person you're going to support, and that it didn't go through any sort of, no process. With the overturning of the Biden election, at least one could argue, hey, well, listen, sure, it's not ideal, but ultimately, there is still the process of delegates casting votes at the convention, and if no one candidate gets 50 plus 1% of the votes, then the bottom person drops off, and then you can have all sorts of, quote, caucusing with one another. You can have little speeches given and so forth. And so, yes, it isn't ideal, but there is still the democratic process at play. And so that's what a lot of Democrats wanted. And then if Kamala gets it, at least she won it. At least she participated in it. But the Democrats don't want that as a party because they don't want the messiness. They want Kamala to be able to be doing what she's doing right now, have the press pushing her, pushing propaganda for her, to begin at this point rewriting history, trying to memory hole what Kamala Harris actually is. and not have the messiness of an actual election at the convention, and then start trying to rehabilitate and rewrite history with Kamala Harris after that, because every day that goes by is a day that they feel that they don't have to try and catch up to Donald Trump. So what they've done is they have said, well, we're actually going to vote before the convention. And they have, in an effort to make it look as if they are supporters of the democratic process, have said, well, now virtually anyone can throw their hat in the ring. But of course, the whole point of having everyone together at the convention is because that's when, if you don't already have the candidate elected, but if you end up with an open convention or a contested convention, that's where other candidates can go to other delegates and say, hey, we want you to support this person, here's why. You can't, if you don't have the convention, then you don't have the ability for anyone to challenge Kamala Harris, because she already has enough delegates that say, well, this is what we plan to do. Without having them in one location at a convention, there's no way anybody's going to be able to lobby all of those individuals in a meaningful way that could give them an opportunity to challenge Kamala. So they are, again, rigging the system to demonstrate that they know that they are rigging the system. They are lying about why it is that they are having that vote early. They are claiming they have no choice because Ohio's law requires that the candidate be chosen prior to the actual convention. And so they have to do it virtually so that officially Kamala Harris is the nominee. That way she can get on the ballot. However, this is a lie. Ohio did have a deadline. I don't know if it was August 1st or the end of July. Or it was prior. That was an issue that they were facing. That the deadline to have the nominee, to get that nominee put on the ballot in Ohio, was before the convention was to take place. But they changed the law in Ohio just weeks ago, saying that the new deadline September 1st. So that is not a thing anymore, yet they're still out there claiming that's why they have to do it. In other words, they're lying about it. And they're lying about it because they know what they're doing is immoral, unethical, and the antithesis of democracy. There's a story, state elections chief is demanding that the DNC stop using Ohio to justify the virtual meeting to coronate Harris. Ohio's top election official demanding Democrats stop using his state as an excuse to justify their expedited nomination of Vice President Kamala Harris for president at the virtual meeting that is upcoming, prior to the convention. Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose sent a letter to DNC Chairman Jamie Harris last Thursday, calling out party officials for deceptively claiming that the Buckeye State's ballot access deadline requires them to nominate a presidential candidate before the party's convention in Chicago, August 19th through 20th. Quote, I've seen numerous media reports and interviews within the past week in which you repeatedly cite Ohio's August 7th ballot access deadline as justification for your committee's intent to conduct a virtual nominating convention. As you know, the Ohio General Assembly made an exception to the ballot access deadline for the 2024 September presidential election, passing legislation signed by the governor that extends that deadline to September 1st. The Democratic National Committee announced last Wednesday it will hold the virtual roll call on the party's presidential and vice presidential nominee weeks before the convention, purportedly because of the ballot access conflict in Ohio, which, of course, isn't true. It's a lie. I don't know if there has been any leg, if you will, or level of this election thus far that they haven't rigged in some capacity. From banning Democrats from challenging Biden, switching around states on the calendar of the process to select that nominee, threatening to strip the voters of their right to participate in the process in the states if they don't comply, then overturning that election. then trying to anoint Kamala Harris, and then now holding the roll call vote before the actual convention to prevent any meaningful challenges from taking place, and falsely, on top of that, claiming it's because of the law in Ohio, which isn't true. For a political party that loves to label Republicans as a bunch of liars, not that they're pure as the driven snow, I don't know that there has been a single aspect of the election so far this year and 2023 into 2024 on the Democrat side that has been honest. I can't think of a single component that hasn't been marred down in lies. And this is yet another one. And their supporters will applaud them all the way. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. We got a happy hour coming up at Retro Metro, 4 to 6 this Friday. Nikki Glazer, she is going to be performing Juanita K. Friday, August 16th, her Alive and Unwell tour. If you want to win tickets or attempt to win tickets for that, go to ksgf.com, get registered for your chance to win a pair of tickets. If you're just randomly, I kind of give this little parental warning, if you will. She's not rated G. She's not even rated PG. Generally speaking, I suspect that this Unwell tour is going to be, it's probably fair to say, rated R. She's just a little more crass. So if you aren't familiar with her, you may want to check out some of her stuff before you go, and that way you're not thrown off guard. I mean, I don't want to overplay it, make it sound like she's Andrew Dice Clay or anything, because, I wouldn't say that, but just, she's not everyone's cup of tea. But she's very, very popular. She's one of the top comedians traveling the country right now. She's actually from the St. Louis area, and your chance to win tickets to see her coming up at ksgf.com. You can do it now.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. We have a heat advisory that will remain in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today it's going to be sunny with a high near 96, the heat index value reaching around 109. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Wednesday, sunny and hot with a high near 98. Once again, that heat index value reaching close to 109, and on Thursday, sunny with a high near 98.
You may notice listening yesterday, today, and up until next Tuesday that our inventory load, that would be commercials, are a little bit heavier. I don't know if you noticed it, but this is because political season and a lot of our ads that we have with our partners that always run. But in addition to that, a number of political ads, and we have an option. We can always bump out our partners that are long-term partners with us, but we don't really want to do that if we don't have to. And of course, we want to accommodate those who are running for office, their ads as well. Just trying to get everyone in there to a degree. And so if you do feel as if while listening to the morning show, it seems like the breaks are a little bit longer. I mean, maybe just 30 or 60 seconds longer than normal. That's why. I just thought I'd mention that. We are going to have on Tuesday our traditional tub thumping, if you will, where you just call in and it's all you. We'll start at 6:30 and the phone lines will be open, and it's just you calling in. And you can text in as well, obviously, as that becomes increasingly popular, texting. I don't know if you've done it before. But you can let us know whom it is that you hope people vote for. It can be one person. It can be a whole slate of individuals that you want to go through. And that is sponsored by Delta Roofing. Now, we do have sample ballots up at KSGF.com. Brad Pistol, Safe Money Radio, sponsoring those. So that gives you an opportunity to see what is going to be on your ballot. That way, sometimes you find like, wait, I didn't know this was on. What is this? I don't know about this. It gives you an opportunity to learn just a little bit more about it. I'm a day late on this, but I don't want to focus too much time on it. But it was just it's just impossible to pass up the video of the Obamas calling Kamala to tell her that they're supporting her. Did you see this?
No, but I did hear the audio.
Oh my gosh. It is so bad.
Is it one of those things where you got to just watch it? Because the audio was kind of cringeworthy.
Yeah, I'll play the audio here. It's under 1 minute. And this might actually be an edited version of it. But the visuals have her, and she's walking down a corridor, and somebody walks up aside her and hands her the phone, and just like a very important businesswoman, she puts it up to her ear. And then she goes from that to it. When I watched it, I tried in my mind to best figure, what does this seem like? This seems like something to me. I'm going to play the audio for you. You do need to see the video in order to understand what I finally pegged in my mind what this makes me think of. But first, here is that audio. Again, this was from last Friday. Didn't talk about it yesterday. Didn't get to it. Honestly, I'd just forgotten about it, but I thought I wanted to mention it today.
Kamala.
Hello. Hey.
Oh, can I also say this before I play it? Because I want to say this so you can think of it while I play. Now, I don't think this is the case, but for whatever reason, to me, in this, Barack Obama sounds like somebody impersonating Barack Obama. It does it. You know how sometimes impersonators, they exaggerate to some degree the cadence of the person that they're impersonating. That's what this sounds like. And I'm not saying that this was an Obama impersonator. I don't think that there'd be any reason that would be done. There would be no reason for it. Clearly, Obama, the decision was made that they needed to get out there. They made the point. They weren't massively excited about her. Point was made, so then they did this indoors. So I do believe that this is actually Barack and Michelle, or Big Mike, that are caught. But he just sounds almost like somebody impersonating Obama.
Aw, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
My goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I'm looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
All right, so that's the bulk of it there. Now, the video, she's just really, she's just so touched. I mean, out of the gate, it just, to me, seemed the furthest thing from presidential. She was acting as if she was being told she won a scholarship to go be a foreign exchange student somewhere, and the people who are head of the foundation called and said, "Oh, we're so proud of you," and she's just so touched by it, like almost as if it's unexpected and just honored. Like she's in that, to me, she projects this personality of not, this is something I'm going out to earn, but as if it's something that's being gifted to her. Which, you think about it, it's pretty appropriate for the process that the Democrats went through. They just handed this to her. She didn't earn this. She didn't go out and campaign. She tried that in 2016, failed miserably. This entire process that has taken place was one in which, again, they manipulated the process so that Biden wouldn't look weak. Then they've overturned all 50 of those elections in the 50 states. And now they are holding the virtual roll call before the actual convention, so nobody can challenge her there. So I suppose it is appropriate that the vibe that she's giving off is one as if she's been given something, gifted something, because she has. She hasn't earned one lick of this thing. It is remarkable to me how inauthentic Democrats have consistently become. There was, and we've seen this develop over the last couple of years, a number of different events, like these phone call things that have occurred in which, it's just so fake. And it's so over the top fake. It's surprising that they let it happen because it demonstrates they can't even recognize what's going to seem as fake to the average person. Everything in their lives is so scripted. Everything in their life is so absolutely fake. There's no authenticity about these people. And so when they develop these different ideas, these little skits that they have, I think, again, one of the most recent ones, there was some music award or movie award where she got on the phone with some rapper or something. She's like, "Girl, we need to this and that." And it was just so horrible. It was Kamala. It was about a month ago. It's just so horrible to watch. And they are so detached from anything authentic, it denies them the ability to recognize lack of authenticity, to go, I don't know, I think people are going to see this as kind of fake. The first couple of times that the Democrats did something like this, you think, well, that was just sort of a weird off step, or just a weird, boy, somebody failed here to catch this. Someone failed to say, hey, this isn't going to come across as being authentic. But the fact that virtually every one of these instances that occur in which they craft some sort of video that is supposed to be in the moment video, every one of them is this way. And it just says to me that this is who the party is now. The party has managed to shift from an era a couple decades ago where Bill Clinton was so relatable to people, and it drove a lot of Republicans nuts. I was one of those individuals that, the policies and the direction that the Clintons wanted to take the country I didn't like, but I recognized Bill Clinton was a very likable person. People felt as if he related to them. He was so authentic feeling to people. They just felt like he was, he could be giving a speech before a crowd of people, but every one of those individuals felt as if he was talking to them. That this party has shifted from that to these cringe-worthy, almost parody-like videos that get put together. The Friday video, which I suspect it dropped on Friday, that way it could be forgotten over the weekend, and then everyone just forgets about it. Again, they made their point. They weren't huge fans of her. They held out for the longest time until it became obvious they weren't endorsing her. Then they do this little video that is so patently and genuinely absurd, but it's done, into a weekend when people aren't paying attention. The feeling of the thing as a whole, the video as well as the audio, I was like, what does this feel like to me? And it feels like the opening of, if you're going to have, let's say, Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, and the whole thing opens with a pre-recorded video of whomever the host is going to be getting the phone call that they're going to be hosting the show. Like they're just sitting at home and, Chris Pratt or whomever the host is going to be. Oh, you got a phone call. It's the executives at Nickelodeon, and hello, and hey, we're so excited to tell you that you're going to be and oh my gosh, I'm just so excited about this. I can't wait to thank you so much. I'm so honored. That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like Kamala Harris was getting, this whole thing was a pre-recorded, produced video to the opening of some sort of kids awards show, Nickelodeon or Disney or whatever it might be, and it was a skit that was all about her learning that she was going to get to host, and her expressing her excitement over it and how honored she is. And then it rolls into the opening credits of the awards show, and then she walks out, and everybody, all the kids scream and applaud. That's the feeling it gave off. And if you're wanting to run, or you are running for president of the United States, I just don't know if that's the vibe you really want to project. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. You looking to sell your home? Step one, you got to contact Emily. Well, but we got this old orange shag carpet, and we know we're going to have to replace that. So we're going to do that first, and then our kitchen is so outdated. And $10,000 later, then we'll have Emily come check out her home, because we don't want her to think that we think that it's ready to be sold in this condition. Don't do anything until you contact her first. It's not like it was once upon a time, in which those conventional wisdom alterations and improvements need to be made to your home. There's some things that are just expected to be updated. There's some things that are not, and you will not get a return on it. You're not going to put 10 grand into it and get 10 or 12 back. You may get even less. It just depends. That's what she knows, down to the neighborhood. What happens in New Mexico or northern Missouri is not what happens here. It's all different, and that's where she's an expert for all of your home buying needs, home selling needs. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. There have been a few names that continue to get mentioned with a great deal of frequency as potential VP choices for Kamala Harris. You got the spaceman from Arizona, U.S. Senator there, who is one of them. They keep talking about Shapiro in Pennsylvania. However, I still contend that him being Jewish, that's just too potentially toxic for the Democrat Party because of their anti-Semitic wing. Some argue that that's why, because they recognize that people see the anti-Semitism in their party, and it would be a way to get those fears to be set aside to some degree, particularly amongst Jewish people. Like, hey, look, we don't hate Jews. One of my best friends is a Jew. He's running with me. But I think the calculation of the pushback they would get from the neo-Nazi wing of their party is something that I think it would be a miscalculation on their part to try and pull that one off. But we'll see. However, there was one name that wasn't bantied around quite as much. Ray Cooper, he's the governor of North Carolina, and he has withdrawn his name, though no reason was given. Now, back to the spaceman from Arizona, this is Mark Kelly. He's facing increased scrutiny following news that, he may become the nominee. He's found himself on the short list. And the increased scrutiny has raised questions about Kelly's dealings with China. As reported by Fox News, Kelly co-founded Worldview, a company that originally aimed to provide customers with space tourism using balloons. One of the company's earliest founders was Tencent, notoriously one of the largest companies in communist China, which the Chinese government therefore controls. Perhaps most famously, the company runs the Chinese social media app WeChat, which serves as a powerful surveillance tool for the Chinese government that collects users' personal information, search history, messages, and so on, as reported by Fox News. World Balloons now provides clients with surveillance and remote sensing services, and services that, in the minds of many people, definitely dovetail with the world of spying. And given this current administration's dealings with China and all of the millions and millions of dollars of communist Chinese dollars flowing into the Biden bank accounts, it may not be a welcomed level of scrutiny for Kamala Harris to pick someone who has ties to China in a financial capacity. Happy Hour Retro Metro. It'll be the last happy hour before the primary elections. Great time to get together and hash things out. That'll be Friday, 4 to 6, Retro Metro. News in 60 seconds. When it comes to the diagnosis of your car with a check engine light, there is a difference between diagnosing the source versus the symptom. And I mention this because it's a very attractive offer. A lot of the big box stores that sell you parts to say, hey, we'll do a free diagnosis for you. We'll hook this little thing in where your little fuse box is, and then it's going to give us a code, and we'll tell you, the code will tell us that this is what is malfunctioning. But it doesn't tell you why that's malfunctioning. The problem may not be, ultimately, or originate with that particular part. But they'll be more than happy to sell you that part. And if the problem doesn't originate with that part, then that means that the replacement is also going to go out, which means you're back to square one and you're out some money. The approach that is taken with A1 Custom Car Care is diagnosing the source of the problem. They find an issue. Okay, well, what leads into that? What leads into that? What leads into that? Until they find the original source. That way, you're not constantly replacing parts only to have them go out again. And most of the work with A1 Custom Car Care is guaranteed 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. So if, a couple years down the road and 30,000 miles, there is an issue that pops up, they're going to make sure that you are taken care of front of the line. A1 Custom Car Care for all of your car care needs. There was a focus group in Wisconsin, MSNBC, where they had 4 black individuals, males, and the question that was asked was, how many of you know have black friends that are going to vote for Donald Trump or Trump supporters? And every one of them raised their hand. Now, that may not seem like that big of a deal, but compared to 10 years, I mean, if you had asked 4 random individuals that were from, Milwaukee or some blue county, how many of you know somebody who is also black that is going to support Mitt Romney? Maybe one would have raised their hand, but it would not have been uncommon for no hands to be raised. But this is a shift that has occurred because of Donald Trump. But what's furthermore, and this is what I found to be interesting, and it's anecdotal, but I think that it is probably on point here, is the follow-up question was, those individuals who have declared that your friends that are black, that they're supporters of Trump, with Kamala Harris getting in the race, has that changed their mind? And every one of them said no. I believe that there is a crack in this wall, and the crack has been created by Trump. And what happens is, those who begin to question whether or not they should be voting for Democrats just because they're black. They may not necessarily be Trump supporters, but they're starting to look around and go, how many times are we going to be told the same thing over and over again and end up with the same results? When are we going to learn? The answer may not be Republicans, but we continue to be told we have to vote Democrat, but things don't get better. They get worse. When those in the black community who have that perspective get approached by the media or by the Democrats and are told, oh, you can vote for us now because we have a woman of color on the ticket, I think that is off-putting for them. Now, everyone's going to be different. But when you have, and this applies to any voter, but we're talking about Democrats focusing on the black vote and the campaigns going down to Georgia. They're trying to, win back some support that has eroded over time with the black vote because, it's very, very, very important in Georgia. That this approach of, that you have this shift, and it isn't because, oh, we just like Donald Trump. It isn't because, well, we're just bored. It's because of the things that are affecting them. It is because of the cost of groceries. It is because of the cost of rent. It's the cost of insurance. It's the cost of gas. It's the issue of crime for many of these individuals who live in blue counties. It is the issue of illegal immigration, again, for many of these in the black community who live in blue counties. Coming along and telling those people, oh, you can come back and support us now because the new person that we're telling you is going to be the nominee is a person of color. It is telling those people who are concerned about meaningful things in their lives that the Democrats are not listening to them. They're not listening. They're not coming back to them and saying, hey, listen, we realize we've gotten off track. We understand your concerns. We recognize that our economic policies have led to problems for you. We're working on it. We recognize that crime is an issue. That's something that we are taking a look at, and we are figuring out where we went wrong. We're going to fix this because we hear you. We understand why it is that you are beginning to question your blind loyalty to the Democrat Party. That's not what they're saying. Their new pitch is, look at her skin color, now you can support us again. I believe that for many of these voters, it's not going to win them over. It's going to further aggravate them and push them away, much like occurred with the average voter who has been, again, with these real issues, been unhappy, but then the Democrats have been saying, no, you're fine. You know, inflation doesn't exist, or it's transitory, or it's not that big of a deal, or telling you, no, the economy's better than it's ever been before. You just don't understand how wonderful it is. That does not win people over. It makes them more angry. This approach that the campaign is taking towards African Americans, and I'm not saying it's going to drive away black people who are already support and who have just surrendered their will and they're going to vote Democrat no matter what. I'm talking about that portion of the black population that has begun to openly say, I don't know that this is the answer any longer. I don't believe they are listening to me. And this is what you hear. And we've played the audio, whether it's callers into Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Show, the urban radio station in New York City, or it is panels of black citizens on MSNBC, those who say that they are either leaning towards or they are going to support Trump, it is because of issues. It's not because of identity politics. They don't talk about, well, this racist, that racist, those racist, these racist. They talk about grocery prices. They talk about lack of school choice or educational opportunities. They talk about crime problems. Trying to win those people back by saying, oh, look, a person of color is now the person that you're going to get to vote for president is insulting to many, their perspective, because that's just how, again, the people have reacted when it comes to the economy and the border and everything else. They're insulted by that. Not to mention, it is demeaning to tell black people that despite their concerns about how these policies have affected them in a meaningful way, that they shouldn't worry about that because, well, Kamala is a person of color. So you should just vote for her. I think that approach is a mistake by the Democrats, which ultimately, though, upside is good for the country, because it diminishes the likelihood that they will continue to keep their grip on this country. Weather in a moment, now news.
The first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today, it's going to be sunny and hot with a high near 96, a heat index value reaching close to 109. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 76. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 98. Once again, that heat index value reaching close to 109. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 98.
I want a great homeloan.com for all of your home loan needs and your refinancing needs. Is refinancing for you? Why would I refinance? I got an interest rate at 3.5%, and interest rates are higher than that right now. You could potentially come out ahead depending on what other borrowing you have going on right now, maybe a vehicle, maybe just whatever it may be. Now, I don't know that that's the answer, but sometimes it is. Here's the thing. It doesn't cost you anything to find out. You go to iwantagreathomeloan.com, fill out some very basic information, and then someone from the Carricker team is going to get back with you, and they are going to, have a conversation with you and ask for potentially some additional information, and then say, all right, here are some of your options. They shared a story just a few months ago about a gal who had really low interest rates, but she was able to save money by refinancing, consolidating some things, not only cut down the amount of time, the term that she had left on what would be the new refinance loan, but also the payments as well. She just ended up across the board saving money, something she didn't think was possible. So it may not work out that way for you, but again, doesn't cost anything to find out, and it all starts at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. Pete Buttigieg, Adam Schiff to speak at White Dudes for Harris virtual event. Numerous Democratic politicians and celebrities, of course, because the Democrat Party is the party of celebrities, will join a White Dudes for Harris call. This was supposed to be last night, took place. There were more than 80,000 people signed up, according to the virtual event's organizer, who said participants would welcome Vice President Harris to the presidential race and pledge to help get her elected. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who's being floated as a potential VP pick, and Adam Schiff are expected to headline the virtual event, which began last night or was slated to begin at 8 o'clock Eastern. I think that it is telling that the point of this was to welcome Vice Presidential Harris to the race. Not to congratulate her on winning the nomination, because she didn't. All of this is so backwards. Someone had texted in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line earlier just how starkly different the process that the Democrats utilize is versus the process that the Republicans utilize when it comes to the nomination process. And incidentally, for the Republicans, it's not because of the establishment, it's because of the voters, which is the opposite of the Democrat Party. For several presidential cycles now, the Republican Party has tried to tell voters, here's how you're going to vote, and much to the dismay and aggravation of the establishment, the Republican voters are like, no, we're voting for Trump. We've done it your way. We did it when you told us to support Bob Dole. We did it when you told us to support Mitt Romney. We did it when you told us to support John McCain. Over and over and over again, you told us this is the moderate, this is the person that can reach across the aisle, this is the individual that can bring us the independent voters, and it doesn't work. Does not work. Doesn't work. We're tired of it. Trump came along and the establishment said, you cannot support this guy. You absolutely, even this last time around, you had people like Asa Hutchinson and Nikki Haley and those who weren't running for office saying you can't choose Trump. Trump's going to be a felon. They're going to use that against him. Can't have all that going on. There's no way he can win. And the Republican voters said, you're not in charge. We are. You put that up against the Democrat Party, who just constantly tells their voters, here's how you're going to do it. Oh, we're going to move this around. We're going to move that around. You're going to vote for Joe Biden. Oh, we changed our mind. Now you're going to support Kamala Harris. So you have all of these events that are taking place, like this White Dudes for Harris, and it isn't to celebrate a win. It isn't to congratulate Harris because they, as voters, chose her. It is to welcome her to the race as individuals who have been told by the party, this is now who you're going to support. We're not even going to have an actual convention. We're going to have the convention, but we're going to lock her up by having the delegates vote for her before we even get to the convention, so she can't even have any challengers. If you were to take the process of the Republican voters in charge of and determining how things are going to play out in terms of the nomination process, and with the Republicans, and you're to say, create the exact opposite scenario, that's what you would get for the Democrats. And it's amazing because that's the party who touts itself the party of democracy. It also demonstrates some of this it's stereotyping. Stereotypes occur for a reason. When we're talking about this is White Dudes for Harris. I suppose that perhaps this illustrates that there's a difference between a man and a dude. Because you look at Donald Trump, you look at Vance, J.D. Vance, versus the Adam Schiffs and the Pete Buttigieg's of the world. And there really truly is a difference between a, quote, man and apparently what is considered a dude. And this is something that does not go unnoticed. It may not be recognized consciously. I'd mentioned there were comments made by Zuckerberg that, that whole Trump with his fist in the air was the most badass thing he'd ever seen. You had, for a while, anti-Trump Jack Osborne, son of Ozzy Osbourne, and he does his own, thing. He's successful in his own right. Last week or the week before, saying that what he saw in Trump demonstrated true leadership and he was going to vote for him now. I had this story. Let's see if I can find it here. Ex-liberal, listen to this. Ex-liberal activist who went viral for pro-Trump posts as assassination attempt solidified support. 7 years ago, Stephanie Tyler marched through Las Vegas wearing a black and white T-shirt emblazoned with the words F Trump and an unflattering picture of the newly inaugurated president's face. Now the former women's study major wants to know if MAGA hats come in black. Quote, seeing Trump stand up and pump his fist in the air after an attempted assassination, something inside me was like, oh, patriotism. I feel it, she told Fox News Digital in her first news interview. Tyler's social media following exploded over the weekend. This was the past. This article is from last week or the week before. Tyler's social media following exploded over the weekend when the assassination attempt of the former president spurred her to, quote, come out as a Trump supporter. Quote, watching Trump survive an assassination attempt and act like a total effing savage just shifted me into some strange patriotic gear that my fancy feminism, white men bad infected brain never showed me, she wrote on X after a brief summary of her liberal background. Quote, sorry, but I'm voting for that, she added in the post, which was viewed tens of millions of times in the 24 hours after she wrote it. As of this may have been even the Thursday prior, the post had been viewed by more than 57 million times on X. Now the entrepreneur and AI enthusiast with a background in marketing caught the attention of Elon Musk, been deemed a must-read by Bill Ackman, and received an outpouring of direct messages from individuals still too afraid to publicly voice their political opinions. She calls the experience surreal and freeing. Quote, it does seem a little hard to wrap your head around coming from women's studies and ending up here. I never thought that would be the case, but you know, people grow and change and evolve, and now I'm here. And I don't know that this isn't, to some degree, in the mix of the reason that the Democrats are trying to label the Trump-Vance campaign, specifically Vance, as being weird. I think that they're recognizing that whether it's that because of that feeling that a lot of people, even some left-wingers, not a tremendous amount, but it got when they saw that, and their heart just resonated with that manliness and that leadership, and there's something that it awoke in them, and they're like, I like that, I can feel that, I like that. I want more of that. That's what feels right and good. Instead of darkness and fear and hatred, upliftingness, patriotism, feel good. And that they fear that the normal average person out there, that all of that stuff is really resonating with them. Not to mention on their side, all this stuff with the drag shows and the wanting kids to have pornography and girls should be forced to shower with boys and compete against boys and lose scholarships to boys and all of this stuff, that they recognize that increasingly there is such a divide between their bizarre, crazy, off-the-wall perspective on things and then just normal people, and that they fear Trump and J.D. Vance, particularly J.D. Vance. He just seems like a normal, good guy, and that they fear that is going to do harm to them, and so that's why this attempt to, and they all have their talking points around, well, J.D. Vance is just weird. He's weird. Maybe to you. I'm sure he is weird. Love America, served his country, out there succeeding on his own. Yeah, that is weird to today's current Democrat Party. But I think that is not a J.D. Vance problem. That is a Democrat Party problem. We've got a traffic update weather. Bill Eigel will join us in just a couple of moments. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. Bill Eigel, of course, state senator running for the Republican nomination to be on the ticket to run for governor in Missouri. That next, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today it's going to be hot, a high of 96, heat index values reaching as high as 109. Tonight clear with a low around 76. For your Wednesday, once again sunny and hot, high near 98. Heat index values reaching 110, and on Thursday sunny with a high near 98.
Bill Eigel joins us. Final stretch is less than a week until everyone will be heading there to the polls, and one, of course, the races. You got the gubernatorial race, and Eigel is in a three-way race. You got Kehoe, you got Ashcroft, you got Eigel, and I wanted to ask you. I saw an ad. I think it was a television ad. And I mean, it just hit you with stuff that I laughed out loud because of some of the characterizations that it laid upon you. But I wanted you to talk about him a bit. And one of them, of course, they're like, he's the most liberal senator in Missouri, which I thought, man, that's like Democrats talking about Kamala Harris just being an amazing candidate for president. So what are the things I think they said that you raised taxes? What are they? Where are they getting that from?
Well, yeah. Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me. And yeah, of course, none of this stuff is true that we're seeing come out from my opponents. They're they're flat out lying about me. I have never supported a tax increase. They're saying all sorts of silly stuff. They're saying that I supported selling our land to China. That isn't even remotely the case. And really, this is happening because they're losing. This is happening because they're losing. And as they see this race starting to slip away from them, they are desperately trying to say anything they can think of to try to convince anybody that will listen to them to not vote for me and to vote for their establishment candidates. I'm not worried about this. This happens to me when both of these previous times I ran for office. And quite frankly, it's just silly. I used to have I'm part of 4 generations of my family that served in the military. My grandfather actually served as a cook for the U.S. Army back in World War II. Back in those days, there used to be a saying, if you're taking flack, you're over target. And just for the same reasons that the status quo and all these lobbyists and special interests hate me down in Jefferson City and like to lie about me, well, that's what my opponents are doing. And of course, it's a shame, but we're in silly season. That's why we're just going to press on until we get to the finish line on a week from today.
I know you're obviously not here to talk about other candidates, but the issue of tax cuts are obviously an important one. And I heard, and I don't know if you've heard this or not, and I want to say it was paid for Cops for Kehoe or something, but there was an ad in which they're claiming that Kehoe will eliminate the state income tax. And I thought, well, that's new to me. I went on his website, could not find any mention of it whatsoever. I did a search to try to find any stories in which he talks about cutting taxes, and I could find nothing whatsoever. Yet there are these ads out there claiming that he's going to eliminate, which I laughed when I thought, well, there's no way he's ever going to do that. But I can't even find any mention of him talking about doing it.
Right. I mean, they're trying to take a shot at trying to get as many Republican-sounding talking points as they possibly can. Here's the reality. Mike Kehoe actually has been supporting some of the largest tax increases in Missouri history while he's been in office. He obviously supported the gas tax increase that we saw from Rhino Republicans a few years ago. That was the largest tax increase in Missouri history. So the idea that Mike Kehoe is a tax cutter is, of course, just silly. I will tell you, I am the only candidate amongst myself, Secretary Ashcroft, or Mike Kehoe that has a plan and is ready to eliminate personal property tax. So for anybody out there that is sick and tired of showing up on December 1st, paying rent to the government for the crime of owning a car, I am the only candidate that has committed that we're going to get rid of personal property tax so you can actually own your car. We're going to join the 29 other states that have already gotten rid of personal property tax. Missouri is going to be the 30th state. You're going to own your car. Let's go, Missouri.
Talking with Bill Eigel, running for governor. He'll be on the ballot. Of course, we do have sample ballots at KSGF.com. That's sponsored by Brad Pistol and Safe Money Radio. A lot of our listeners, they will ask the question, or they talk about, well, gosh, they see Kehoe as big government, tax and spend left winger, and so then they see you and Ashcroft as the other two, and so what do you say to those who say, well, I think Ashcroft and Eigel, they're both conservative, they both be a good choice, definitely an alternative to Kehoe. What do you say to those folks?
Well, no, I think there's a big difference between Jay Ashcroft and myself. As I already mentioned one of them, if you want to see an end to personal property tax in the state, Jay Ashcroft has come out and said he opposes the state taking action to eliminate personal property tax. I'm saying we're going to get rid of personal property tax. Jay Ashcroft supports continuing use of the Joe Biden voting machines in our elections. I want to get rid of those machines and go back to the hand counting of ballots that worked for Missouri for more than 100 years. I've been actually, when we talk about election integrity, I've actually been voting for the bills that actually got us photo ID requirements to vote while Jay Ashcroft was taking millions of dollars of Zuckerbucks that we actually did have to ban through the legislation that I passed. So I think there's a pretty big difference between Jay Ashcroft and, really, more than anything else, I'm the proven conservative. I'm the one that's actually taken these votes. I'm the one that's taken on the status quo. I'm the one that's become unpopular with all the lobbyists and the special interests because I've been confronting the swamp for the past 8 years. So if you're looking for that proven conservative that's really going to confront the swamp, I think that we have a compelling candidacy that folks ought to consider. I need your help on August 6th.
And Bill Eigel with us. I know you're traveling around the state, very busy. What is it that you just really want people to know? Like I said, this is the final stretch. We're just days away. Well, I guess a week away. Next Tuesday, people will be headed to the polls. And, I'm sure, I can't imagine if I'm do you tune out the ads? I don't watch network television a lot, but I mentioned earlier this morning I happened to have it on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe. I mean, I know they exist, but in fact, when the ad came on against you, my wife laughed, and she's like, dang. I mean, like, boy, they just really don't like that guy, the establishment,
Yes.
putting out those ads. I mean, I guess you have to tune them out, or you. If it were me, I'd be sitting there thinking, "Oh, I just wish people knew this." I mean, what is it that you really want? If you could cut through all the noise, and you're talking to people as they try to decide whom it is that they want to be the Republican nominee to vote for governor, what's that? What is that message?
The message is, if folks are looking for a disruptor in the governor's mansion, very similar to how Donald Trump is a disruptor of the swamp down in Washington, D.C., I'm the guy. I'm the guy that is going to get in there and kick over these apple carts of the powerful who have been growing government, who have been disappointing Republicans, and I've got the backbone to take them on. I'm running on two major planks. One, I'm the only candidate that is going to detain and deport every single one of the more than 70,000 illegal immigrants that have come into the state. We're going to push back on what Joe Biden did when he opened up the southern border of this country. And unlike a guy like Mike Kehoe, who says deporting illegal immigrants is impractical and foolish, I'm going to join Donald Trump, and we're going to start the largest mass deportation of illegals in Missouri in American history. And then secondly, unlike either of my two opponents, I'm going to be the one that leads the fight, and we will get rid of personal property tax. I am the only candidate that is willing to stand up and cut the tax burden, not just on income taxes, but getting rid of personal property taxes. And if you want to see an end to personal property tax, I am the only choice in this race. So I would ask for your vote on August 6th so that we can start getting the Missouri. And I know you show up every 2 years on the first Tuesday in November and ask it. And if you're willing to tune out this silliness as we go through the last 7 days of folks claiming that I'm something that I'm not, we're going to have a much better Missouri than the one we're living in now.
Well, and I want to ask you finally, because it's made news, and I know there was an article in Just the News about it, but, Trump made an endorsement, but he endorsed all of you guys, which I think actually can serve a positive purpose for your campaign in particular, and it's something I can talk about. But I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm honored to have Donald Trump's endorsement. I think that it really it speaks to the fact that these things that my opponents have been saying about me are just completely and factually false. I focus, if we want to talk about the contrast between me and my opponents, I'm the one out here talking about supporting the Donald Trump deportation plan of illegals. I think that's why he trusted me enough to say that he's endorsing me to be the next governor of the great state of Missouri. So we're excited about that. There's a ton of, while I'm out there talking about getting rid of the illegals, we've got Mike Kehoe talking about embracing amnesty because he thinks deporting illegals is foolish. We've got Jay Ashcroft out there accepting millions of dollars in Zuckerbucks. So I feel good with where we're at. And I think the endorsement of President Trump is it's a solid boost to the campaign. I'm very honored and humbled to have that. Let's go, Missouri.
Well, and I'd say, some people chuckled about it because it was endorsing everyone. I think that it does serve a purpose for you because there are those ads that are running that I think they're pro-Kehoe ads claiming that Trump is against you. So to have him come out and, amongst others, say, no, he would be fantastic as governor as well, I think definitely highlights the fact that those ads are not honest. Any final thoughts today?
Listen, we got 6 days to change the trajectory of our state. We've got all these rhino Republicans down in Jefferson City that I've been exposing and holding accountable for 8 years that are growing government that is leading to the stagnation of our state. We've got some of the most liberal Republicans ever to serve as Republicans in Jefferson City on the ballot for governor. That's Mike Kehoe. We've got untested moderates like Jay Ashcroft also on the ballot. I'm the only proven conservative. We're going to deport the illegals. We're going to eliminate personal property tax. We're going to stop the sale of our farmland to China or any other country. We're going to start protecting the children in this state from this woke leftist nonsense that's trying to harm them, infect them. We've got a lot of work to do. I'm asking for your vote on August 6th.
Bill Eigel, it's always good to hear from you, sir.
Thanks, Dick. Have a great morning.
All right, you do the same. Bill Eigel, everyone. Springfield's Talk 1041. One of the things that I like about the relationship between Trump and Trump supporters is that they feel genuinely or generally free to disagree with him. That's not something you really get on the Democrat side. You have to be absolute lockstep, never disagree. You have to be full compliance. Otherwise, they run you off. But the relationship with Trump and voters doesn't have to be that way. I know a tremendous amount of Trump voters. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't, but overall, the whole big picture I like. And, that being said, Trump's assertion that any of the three candidates would be a great governor, he is wrong. If you were to play which one of these things does not belong, Mike Kehoe would be that one thing. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right, still got the third hour ahead of us and some time left in the second hour here. If you do miss any of the show, fear not. There is the on-demand section. You can also Spotify, a number of other ways catch it. And then we do broadcast on YouTube, which stays archived, so you can go back and watch any of those episodes, share them if you want. The YouTube, that video feed live from the studio, that's sponsored by Springfield Wraps, and they are, among other things, the designer of the KSGF studio. So a big thank you to them. But I do want to update on some of the, gosh, boy, it's a lot of stuff. All right, so it's clear the media has been, they spent this week using, they don't really have much capital, they don't have much credibility, but cheerleading Kamala while making people think that J.D. Vance is some sort of, crazy weird guy. They're, as usual, working to convince you that the opposite of reality is truth. That J.D. Vance, which I suspect there must have been with someone, the Harris campaign or previously the Biden campaign polling, that showed that the average American felt that J.D. Vance was relatable. And I'll say this about Vance. As somebody, when it came to whether or not he was the VP pick, I was somewhat indifferent. I'm not somebody that has really followed J.D. Vance. Clearly, I'm aware of him. I've never been a fan, but I haven't been against him or anything. I don't know. He's not on my radar as somebody that I follow on a daily basis. And, a J.D. Vance interview, I'm going to watch that. Just haven't been that person. But I think in terms of elected officials that are high profile, I don't know that you can find anyone that seems more like a normal person than J.D. Vance. I mean, he does not seem like a politician. He doesn't come across as a politician. And some of that may be because he, until recently, hasn't been one. The vast majority of his life has been just a normal person, a normal American that does normal things. And that authenticity, his wife, very authentic, and the left has to hate this. She's a lady of color, so that drives them nuts because they can't really paint him as racist. I mean, they'll still try, but and he just comes across as normal, which means the media has to pretend that he's not. And so this is the new talking point, that he's weird. Oh, he's weird. So, of course, if you support him, then you must be weird as well. And if you don't recognize that he's weird, then that means that you're really weird because you don't even know that he's weird. Out of the gate, they attempted to demonstrate, the media and Democrats, that Kamala Harris was a force to be reckoned with because within 48 hours, millions and millions of dollars. Now, that, of course, is misleading because those were dollars that were plugged up. You may recall all of these donors in the weeks leading up to the Democrat election being overthrown and Biden being booted. All of these donors that had been donating money, they stopped. So it was plugged up. This was one of the main complaints from one of the Biden people, that they really screwed. That's how they really screwed him over in that capacity, because if you don't have money, well, I mean, Trump, he doesn't need those big donor dollars, but Biden did. That was his oxygen. Had to have the billionaires writing checks and the multimillionaires writing checks, and it all just stopped and plugged up. Well, once Harris was announced, they opened the valve back up, and you had a backlog of dollars ready to go, and so you're going to get that huge initial push. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It isn't in any way, shape, or form a sign that Kamala Harris was exciting people. Those were dollars that would have flowed in anyway, but they stopped because of the Biden situation, and then they began flowing again. What is more accurate, however, is a side-by-side with regular fundraisers. And there was a Massachusetts event. Kamala Harris, this was her first just regular, normal people fundraiser, though Yo-Yo Ma and James Taylor were there because they have to bring in celebrities. And she raised $1.5 million. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance in Oklahoma City had a lunchtime fundraiser, no celebrities, and he raised $2 million. So this narrative that the Democrats have that Republicans don't really like J.D. Vance that much, and Kamala Harris, just look at the money she's raking in. When you turn it to an apples and apples situation, the picture's a little bit different than what they're trying to paint. Happy hour coming up. It's right. It's Friday. Happy hour at Retro Metro Friday 4 to 6. Last happy hour before the primary election. Great opportunity to get together, mingle, news in 60. One of the criticisms that Kamala Harris has lobbed at J.D. Vance is that he isn't or won't be loyal to the country, which is, I think we overthink things. We're like, why would she take that tact? I mean, he's a guy who served his country, signed up to be in the military, served his country. It seems like an odd play. It seems like an odd attack to make on somebody when you didn't serve in particular. If you served as well, that is sort of lateral there, but given that you didn't serve and he did, to accuse him of not being loyal to the country, it just seems like an odd attack. And oftentimes there's this attempt to figure out, okay, what's the thinking behind it? Sometimes it's just because the person doing it's an idiot, and I think that's what we're dealing with here. I don't think that we need to overthink it. When you look at it and it doesn't make sense, our tendency is to believe that it's because we haven't figured it out. I don't think there is anything to figure out. Kamala Harris is stupid. She just is. I'm guessing she feels that her background versus his background, and her accusing him, somebody who signed up voluntarily and served our country in the military, that claiming that he doesn't have loyalty to the country as opposed to her is something that's just going to make the average person go, oh, I didn't know that. Huh. Okay. Her argument here is that he's going to be more loyal to Trump than the country. Again, think about the messenger here. This is a woman who has spent the entire administration lying to the American people about the senility of the President of the United States. This is a woman who has helped cover up for Joe Biden instead of doing what would be right for the country overall and doing something about the problem. Like, acknowledging it. You think about the massive implications. Even the majority of Americans believe that Joe Biden's mental defects are a danger to national security. We don't know who is running this country on a day-to-day basis. We don't know. We don't know if at 3 o'clock in the morning there is an alert that goes off because a missile is headed from North Korea and it looks like it's on a pathway to hit California. Who's going to deal with that when you have just minutes, if less than that, maybe seconds, to decide whether or not to launch a counterattack? You think you could even get Joe Biden to come to in that amount of time? I mean, seriously. A lot of us, you wake up from a dead sleep and it takes a minute to kind of, whoa, what's going on? You got, okay, hold on a sec. You got to sort of focus. You imagine Joe Biden? We don't know who's making these decisions. And Kamala Harris has known this all along, and she has helped with the cover-up, lying to the American people on behalf of Joe Biden to the detriment of this country. And she is going to claim that J.D. Vance, that we should worry about him sacrificing loyalty to America in the name of Donald Trump? I mean, I suppose if anyone would know what that looks like, it would be her, because she's been doing it this entire administration. There's a poll that has come out that, like so much else grounded in reality, shows that what the Democrats and the media are claiming is not true. Polling shows J.D. Vance more popular than Kamala Harris. Polling shows that Republican vice presidential nominee, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, is more popular than presumptive Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris, shattering the establishment media's narrative. And as you know, this entire week has been the previous week about what a brilliant pick Kamala is, coming from the same people who just months to a year ago were saying she should be dropped because she is the dead weight on the ticket, now telling us how wonderful she is, while saying that Republicans, they really regret picking J.D. Vance. Oh, yes, they really regret it. Oh, boy, what a mistake that they've made here. Huge mistake. Very unpopular. Nobody likes him. Everyone loves Kamala. CNN senior political data reporter Harry Eaton, recently said he doesn't even understand why former President Donald Trump chose Vance because his favorability rating is so low. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal polling, Vance is more popular than Harris. And by the way, this should come as no surprise. Kamala Harris has consistently been the least popular vice president in the history of the country. That's not right-wing polling prior to the media doing an about face. She was questioned about this. She would always take the standard line, well, the polls that I see say that I'm really popular. Okay. It's like they have the White House internal newsletter. Much like in high school, we had Tiger Talks, or Tiger Tales, I think is what it was called. Carthage. Tigers, like so many Missouri schools, the mascot, Tiger Tales. You can't help but wonder if in the Biden-Harris White House there is a White House newsletter where they do their own polling, because every time they're faced with the reality of polls regarding how the American people feel about the state of affairs or the administration, they talk, well, the polls that we see say the opposite. Okay. Because the White House Whoppers, or whatever their newsletter is called, is showing them otherwise. Point being, this is no surprise, despite the media trying to memory hole the reality about Kamala Harris's popularity. She has consistently been the most unpopular vice president we've had in history, hence the media, up until a couple months ago, talking about how Biden should drop her off the ticket. The surveys show that 42% of registered voters in a poll view Vance favorably, while 44% see him as unfavorable. And those are pretty remarkable numbers, given that the media has been full court press, destroy him at all cost. In contrast, 52% view Harris as unfavorable, while only 46% see her in a positive light, which is the most positive showing for Harris in the election cycle. So even with the media on their propaganda parade of J.D. Vance is horrible, awful, and weird, and Kamala Harris is the most amazing thing ever to be gifted to us as human beings in this country, she still does more poorly than J.D. Vance does in terms of favorability. So we've had in the last couple of weeks some polling here that shows J.D. Vance is more popular than Kamala Harris, and he's running as vice president. And when it comes to normal fundraising, Harris recently had a fundraiser, had some celebrities there, of course. She raised $1.5 million. J.D. Vance did a luncheon in Oklahoma City, raised $2 million. Now, that doesn't mean every single time he's going to show up as more popular in the polls, and every single time with a run-of-the-mill luncheon fundraiser, he's going to raise more money than Kamala Harris. But it certainly does show an inconsistency from what the media tells us is actually going on, which, of course, we've gotten to the point now you can all but bet on whatever the media is telling you, the opposite is the truth. Latest news update.
And your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today it's going to be hot with a high near 96. That heat index value is going to reach close to 109. Tonight, clear with a low around 76. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 98. Once again, that heat index value is going to be close to 109. And for your Thursday, sunny with a high near 98.
Facebook admitting a mistake in censoring the iconic Trump assassination attempt photo. It was an error. This is something that over the last 24 hours has made some news headlines because people have noticed that when you use the AI in Facebook and it's referencing anything, well, one, the assassination attempt has been listed as being fiction by Facebook, and then these photos are being listed as fake. Facebook has, of course, come out and said, oh, it was an accident. And once again, we continue the trend of every time there is some sort of error or accidental censoring of something, it's always done in a manner that results in negative coverage for Trump. Did you ever notice that? They never make a mistake in which the mistake makes Trump look better, or is a mistake that leans towards, in a manner that makes Kamala look bad. Every time there's a mistake, the mistake is beneficial to the Democrats, Biden, the media, Kamala, and it's detrimental to Republicans, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump. It's just remarkable how consistent that is. Republicans clearly have a challenge that Democrats do not, and that is navigating the media. A claim that is made, as absurd as it may be, against a Republican, it turns into a formidable weapon that the Republicans have to figure out how to navigate. Meanwhile, you can have real, legitimate, hardcore allegations against a Democrat, like getting millions of dollars from China, Russia, and so forth, and the media covers for them. They are the sword and shield of the Democrat Party, just like the Justice Department is. This is what they do. They act as their defender. They act as their warrior. And it's in that environment that you can have, several years ago, I think it was, J.D. Vance make a characterization, a bunch of childless cat ladies turn into some sort of scandal. That should be a determining factor as to whether or not Donald Trump gets reelected president. You know what's going on in this world today? This is how damaging the media can be. Of all of the things that are going on in this country, very dangerous, damaging things. From accusations that these illegal immigration centers under the Biden administration are being essentially used as child molestation camps, to the tens of thousands of kids that have been lost, a.k.a. sold into sex slavery into this country, war in the Middle East, drugs across the border, the education system, the economy, and time is being spent on expecting Republicans to respond to the fact that J.D. Vance with Tucker Carlson back in 2021 made a reference to people who are in charge of this country, referencing among the list a bunch of childless cat ladies. Really? And the failure, because you can't help the way that the media is going to do what they're going to do. You can't help that. It's what you do with it. And the fact that there's trying to explain it, in fact, there's a Fox or Daily Caller has a story. Fox News' Brian Kilmeade says J.D. Vance is probably losing by explaining childless cat lady remarks, and I agree. This is a much less extreme version of, when did you stop beating your wife? And then explain, well, I never beat my wife. What do you say? And then all of a sudden you're talking about beating your wife. This is, of course, done every minute that the media is talking about childless cat or a bunch of childless cat ladies. They're not talking about the border. They're not talking about the economy. They're not talking about the illegal drug problems and just all of the problems that we as Americans face. When you think about it, it's really stupid. Oh, and then, well, even some single Republican women, they shut up. Number one, if you don't know the background of what he was talking about here, he was talking about the fact that there are certain people in this country that don't really see a future for the country. And there are actually, Kamala Harris has talked about this, young people that don't want to have kids because they feel that the country's going to hell, the world's going to hell, we're destroying the environment, and so they're just so stressed out they won't even have kids. And the point that J.D. Vance was making is, how much, if you live in a country and you, as a citizen, expect that the people running the country see a future for the country as well, you may want to not have people running the country that don't see a future for the country. They don't have children. They don't see any point in having kids. And this isn't people who, what about people that can't have children? That's not what he was talking about. This is why we can't even have adult conversations in this country. Because people don't care about what he meant. They have no interest in what he meant. The moment you start explaining, well, here's what he meant, they don't care about that. It makes no difference to them whatsoever because they don't care about serious conversations. All they care about is playing these stupid games. So, of course, how to handle it, because they're going to continue to ask it. You know what I would do? I wouldn't apologize. I'd be like, listen, grilling me about saying bunch of childless cat ladies years ago is not going to find a single child who's been lost into sex slavery in this country. Grilling me and focusing on childless cat lady isn't going to bring the price of gas down. It's not going to bring the price of groceries down. Asking every Republican their thoughts on me saying 3 years ago a bunch of childless cat ladies is not going to secure the border. It's not going to make this world any safer, and it's not going to make anything better. Can we talk about those things? Democrats want to focus on that? Fine. We want to focus on things that matter, things that work, things that are going to make this country better. And for those that, well, what about those who are offended? Their eyes are not on the ball. Frankly, I don't have time to worry about that. My number one job is to help President Donald Trump fix the things that are broken. Once we do that, then I'll start an apology tour to all of those people who are triggered by the words childless cat ladies. Now let's move on. RFK Jr. says that he may need to apologize to past women because we got a story on that. There's allegations being made, as you can expect, of course, in order to try to damage RFK Jr. That next, I'm Nick Reed. Got a traffic update, couple of reminders for you. Happy hour at Retro Metro, 4 to 6. Coming up this Friday, we will have, of course, the Friday Road Show at Scramblers, kicking off the morning Friday, sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting and powered by 3M Window Film. KSGF.com. We have sample ballots sponsored by Brad Pistol and Safe Money Radio, and you can register to win tickets to see comedian Nikki Glazer at Juanita K. Friday, August 16th, her Alive and Unwell tour. All that at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton. Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area until Thursday. Today, it's going to be sunny and hot with a high near 96. Heat index values reaching close to 109. Tonight, clear with a low around 76. For your Wednesday, once again, sunny and hot with a high near 98. Heat index values reaching close to 110, and Thursday sunny with a high near 98.
All right, RFK Jr., he has said he may need to apologize to past women for alleged sexual assault. Quote, I had a very rambunctious life. Much of this is centering around Eliza Cooney, who worked for the Kennedy family when she was a young woman, and she told Vanity Fair in early July that Kennedy forcibly groped her in the late 1990s. Now, this is July, and this is, during the period of time that, of course, the Kennedy existence in this race was seen as detrimental to Biden. So this is why you have these, all of a sudden, the media interested in doing these sort of interviews. And let me see if I understand this now. When it comes to Kennedy's now treating women poorly as something bad, I mean, we're talking about a media that covered for Kennedy, who killed a woman. I mean, the Kennedys have long been known for using and abusing women. I love how now, all of a sudden, whoa, here's a Kennedy, though, however. So they found the one Kennedy that they have a problem with when it comes to accusations of mistreating women. And, of course, it was because of the fear that he could help usher Donald Trump into the presidency. During a sit-down interview with CBS, the chief Washington correspondent had to sit down with this one, asking him about it. He evidently apologized to her via text message, which is not smart for a number of reasons. He said in a statement that his statement to Cooney speaks for itself, noting that, human interaction. She claimed that he groped her. I mean, if I'm Kennedy, I'm like, well, Biden's been accused of that as well. So I guess this means that I'm qualified to be president. Quote, human interactions are complicated. People have different interpretations of them. And if I did anything to hurt somebody, I'm going to make amends for that. He also stressed that while he did not wish to make any public comments on Cooney's allegations, he does not wish to leave anybody in the world feeling like I did something that was insensitive or inappropriate. When Garrett asked Kennedy if he might have to make further apologies in the future, he acknowledged, well, it's quite possible. I'm 70 years old. I've had a very rambunctious life. Well, he's a Kennedy. I don't think you're allowed to carry the official Kennedy badge unless you have been accused of inappropriate behavior against a woman. But amazingly enough, after decades and decades and decades of covering for and excusing Kennedy behavior, they found a Kennedy in which they find such behavior to be so unbecoming it deserves to be covered in a negative light. I wanted to play a video that was put together by, it's under 3 minutes, an influencer. Yes, an influencer. And this was an influencer that is, by surface description, somebody that's a lefty. By his own acknowledgement, he has long believed, the two-state solution when it comes to Israel. It's just a matter of them all getting along. That position that most Democrats take. And so what he thought he would do as an influencer, he's going to go to Gaza, which, by the way, not a lot of reporters do. They certainly don't do man-on-the-street interviews in Gaza. Journalists don't do this. He decided he was going to go do this. Now, he did recognize that due to the more strict standards, socially speaking, in Gaza, that he was going to have to change his appearance some. He removed his signature flair, his jewelry, his nail polish, wore a more masculine outfit. He is his name's Zach Sage, and he's Jewish. He's Jewish American. He recognized that might not work out so well for him in Gaza, particularly when it comes to getting honest questions from people that live in Gaza. So he was going to present himself as an Italian, as he looks kind of Italian. He thought, I think I could pull that off, Italian. So he got a film crew to go down there. And what he found, he would later describe as a little bit surprising. As you know, here in the United States, we're told that most people, most of the, quote, Palestinians are not terrorists and they don't support terrorism. They are innocent victims like everywhere else. He bought into that. And I'll play the audio. It's a clip together of him talking with different people in Gaza. And what he found was that, no, they all support it. They all support eliminating the Jews. And he was shocked because he thought, well, I'll find younger, more educated. Surely the younger people will be more enlightened or at least more hopeful. And he was very surprised, based off the propaganda he has received here in the United States from the media, that even the young and educated wanted the Jews dead. This talk about how most people, most civilians in the Middle East aren't anti-Semitic, that was an absolute lie. And he almost didn't make it out alive. At one point, he got confronted by a bunch of Arabic men, and they kind of went nuts on him, and he's just feared for his life at that point and was able to make it out. So here is the under 3-minute video that he made going into Gaza, which, by the way, he's doing, as much as we want to mock influencers, what actual journalists probably should do instead of falsely painting people in that region as being kind individuals that are not anti-Semitic whatsoever. This guy does more in terms of journalism as an influencer than most mainstream media.
For months now, millions of people around the world have been chanting Free Palestine. Well, I've decided to see Palestine. Welcome to the Wild West Bank. Are you supportive of Hamas?
Yes.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Are most Palestinians?
Yeah.
Palestinian people like Hamas.
I'm with the resistance.
Did you see the videos they posted of what they did on October 7th?
Everything.
And you're okay with all that?
With everything they did.
They killed innocent Israelis. They killed... Yes,
No.
they did.
No.
Yes, they did.
Give me a picture for rape.
Do you think Hamas should release the Israeli hostages?
No.
No. No.
Nothing named Israel.
There's nothing named Israel?
Yeah.
The Quran mentions Israel over 100 times. Is Palestine mentioned in the Quran?
No.
No. The murders Hamas did on October 7th, is that okay?
Yes. They have the right to do it.
The problem is not Hamas. We should look at the bigger picture.
They living under occupation.
But Israel left Gaza in 2005.
Sure.
What does Antifada mean?
Violent.
And neither one of us were born anywhere near 1940. We have to deal with the reality today.
No.
No, don't deal with the reality today.
Britain brought all the criminal Jews since 1948. They can go back. Holanda, Iraq.
Most of those places, they were kicked out.
Jews have been killed or exposed to any struggle or any violence.
Almost every country in the Middle East.
No.
That's true.
Educate yourself. If they are kicked, it's because of their own actions.
What did they do, besides being Jews?
They do all awful deeds.
Does anyone here hate Hamas? In the U.S., it's a big movement right now. Queers for Palestine. Are you supportive of that?
No. We don't have it.
You don't have gay people here.
No.
It's like an alien. It would not be accepted.
No, to be honest with you, no.
Do you want to live with the Israelis in peace? Or?
No. I want one state solution. No Israel.
So no more Israel.
Yes.
Israel wiped off the map.
Palestine فقط.
We should delete Israel.
So you would not be okay with a two-state solution?
Israelis prisoners when they released from Gaza. They was smiling.
You think that these people are genuinely smiling after being held hostage? They're scared out of their life.
Who put this in your brain?
I think you're in denial about Hamas. So Hamas implements strict Sharia law. It looks like in Ramallah, at least, you're free to show your hair. Would you want Hamas to be in charge?
They would allow for elections. Why not?
Elections in Gaza.
want them.
Thanks for watching this report. It truly is a wild, wild West Bank. Peace in the Middle East.
All right, so that again, an influencer that decided to do what journalists won't actually do and go talk to people, in quote Palestine, their thoughts on Hamas, their thoughts on the Jews, because as you know, we get told that they're all mostly peaceful people. Most of them simply want to live in harmony alongside the Jews. And this isn't somebody who sought out to prove the opposite. This is somebody who believed in all of that. Went in to make a video believing at one point, because of the overwhelming consistency of people saying that Jews should be eliminated, one-state solution, Jews are awful, it's their fault, they have what's coming, we support Hamas. He deliberately sought out more educated and younger individuals, believing that they would be more likely to be the audience that he thought was a wider representation of the people in that region, and that is people who wanted a two-state solution, just wanted, to live harmoniously side by side with the Jewish people, and he could not find those people anywhere. This is the truth. And this is what this administration in particular does not want you to know as they run around talking about the need for a two-state solution. That these are mostly peaceful individuals that reject the actions of October 7th. It's a lie. I thought that this next quick little story here before we take another quick break is a perfect illustration of the importance of perception with our enemies. How the perception of the United States oftentimes dictates the behavior of the bad guys, whether the bad guys are bad guys through their actions or whether they sit to the side quietly. A 9/11 terrorist plea to a Virginia judge that he be sent home to France from a federal supermax prison to avoid the prospect of Donald Trump ordering his execution has led to outrage from lawmakers on Monday. Zacharias Moussaoui, the 20th hijacker, as he's called, he is pleading with a federal judge to get him out of U.S. jurisdiction. He's in a prison here in the United States, convicted of his part of September 11th. He wants to go back to France because he's afraid that as a terrorist, what his fate will be with Donald Trump as president, as opposed to feeling pretty darn secure right now with Biden and Harris in the White House. What does that tell us? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, the heat, it can be just as brutal to your roof than the rain and the wind. And extreme heat can cause older shingles to crack and to blister, which can then raise the edges and allow for moisture to get underneath. If it is time for a new roof, or you just want an idea of the health of your roof, I want to recommend to you Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. And I like the Pyramid team for a lot of reasons, but honestly, they make that roofing process as simple as possible. They're upfront, they're honest, and they want to be as beneficial to their customers as they possibly can. They do free roof inspections, and they also help you through that insurance process, and all without making you sign any type of agreement or contract. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company out at your home, go ahead and give Josh and his team a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
There's video circulating of pro-Palestinian activists at an Olympic soccer match doing the Heil Hitler. Group of pro-Palestinian activists held up Palestinian flags when the Israeli team lined up on the field. This was Saturday alongside Team Paraguay. The group began showing support for Hitler in an attempt to get a rise out of the players and to generate attention for their cause. The group was coordinated in their efforts as they repeatedly made the Nazi salute and chanted Heil Hitler at the top of their voices. This isn't isolated, by the way. This is what the Jews are dealing with in the Olympics. This is the atmosphere that has been allowed to exist. Because the response is, from the organizers, they confirmed the incident, they condemned the activists, and that they have stated that an official complaint was filed with French authorities. So they filled out a form. This is the level of outrage demonstrated when you have people that openly call for finishing what Hitler started show up in the stands at an event in which Jewish players are on the field and start hollering Heil Hitler. They filled out the paperwork to complain. As I mentioned, this wasn't an isolated incident. At the same time, of course, there's been much discussion about the opening of the Olympics that depicted with drag queens the Last Supper, the gaslighting of pretending that's not what it was, when everyone could see that's what it was. And then, of course, the position, not that we should be more sensitive, not that we should be less bigoted and anti-Christian, but generally speaking that Christians need to quit whining. Now, I bring up these two particular instances, while once again not isolated. There's been a common theme, particularly that Jews are facing in France, the anti-Semitism, the open anti-Semitism. And again, the range of response is telling, just deal with it, all the way to filling out a complaint. Meanwhile, this is all priorities. Olympic announcer Bob Ballard fired over joke about women taking too long to get ready. Now, here's the audio of it, and I'll play it for you, though it's not overly clear. And Bob Ballard, this after a relay race, a 4x100-meter freestyle relay team. They were finishing up, and it was the Olympic swim team, took the gold medal, and he makes a reference, said, well, they're getting wrapped up, they're finishing up. You know what women are like, hanging around doing their makeup. This is the audio of that.
Women just 30 off, like, makeup.
All right, and so then his co-host there, the lady, laughed and said, oh, do you suppose the men are doing that as well? He was fired because of the level of offensiveness. Immediately gone. Career over. Now think about that for a moment. This is the same culture and institution that mocks Christians, tells them to get over it, makes Jews subject to calls for their genocide. The Jewish the Israeli-Paraguay soccer match, a stadium with a section of anti-Semites doing the hollering Heil Hitler while throwing their hands in the air. A paperwork complaint is filled out. But boy, you make a crack about women taking too long and putting on their makeup. Well, now that is where the Olympics draw the line. All right, everyone. Glenn Beck's coming up next. We will, reminder, happy hour, the last happy hour before the primary elections, coming up at Retro Metro 4 to 6 Friday. In the meantime, Glenn Beck is coming up next. I am Nick Reed. I will talk with you tomorrow.